Welcome to Campfire Stories.
Welcome back to the fire, friends. We have met kings and con men and fools in gold this season, men who came to the Klondike for treasure and found riches or ruin. Tonight we meet a young man of 21 who went north for gold, found almost none, nearly died in the trying, and came home with the only Klondike fortune that ever really lasted. His name was Jack London. And what he dug out of the Yukon was worth more than all of Big Alex's claims put together.
Jack London. Marty, even I know that name, the man who wrote The Call of the Wild. He was really a stampeder? A real one over the passes?
A real one, Carol, and a young, poor, hungry one. In 1897, Jack London was a 21-year-old from the working docks of Oakland, California, a boy who had already been an oyster pirate and a factory hand and a hobo riding the rails, tough as boot leather and starving for something bigger than the life he'd been handed. When the Klondike news hit, he borrowed money from his sister's husband and he went. He climbed the Chilkoot with the rest, that same golden stairs, carrying his own outfit up on his own back, again and again, a strong young man among 100,000 dreamers.
So he made the climb. He did the hard thing. And then Marty? Did he find any gold at all?
Almost none, Carol. He got down the river into the Yukon and staked in near a place on the Stewart River. And by the time winter came down, real Klondike winter, 40 and 50 below, the ground was frozen iron hard and the river was ice, and there was nothing to do but hole up in a little log cabin with a few other men and wait for spring. And that, Carol, that long, dark, frozen winter of doing almost nothing, is where the real story happened, though Jack London did not know it at the time.
A whole winter shut in a tiny cabin in the dark and the cold with a few strangers. Marty, that sounds like a slow kind of misery. What on earth did they do?
They talked, Carol. That is what they did. That is all there was to do. Picture it. Outside, a darkness and a cold that could kill you in an hour. Inside, a single room, a stove, a few bunks, and 5 or 6 men from every corner of the earth, thrown together for months on end. And they told their stories. Trappers and sailors and prospectors and drifters, every one of them with a life behind him. And through those long black weeks, Jack London sat by that stove and listened. He listened to the old-timers talk about the dogs, about the trail, about men who froze and men who survived, about the code of the North and the ways a person's true character comes out when the temperature drops and the food runs low.
Oh, Marty? He was not finding gold. He was gathering stories. That whole terrible winter, he was filling up like a well.
Filling up like a well, Carol. That is just right. He soaked up the land and the dogs and the men and the terrible, beautiful indifference of that country, and he stored every bit of it away without quite knowing why. But the winter took its toll on his body. Living on beans and bacon and bread, with no fresh food for months, Jack London got scurvy, Carol, the old sailor's disease. His gums swelled and bled, his teeth loosened, his joints ached, and his skin broke out, and by spring he was a sick young man who knew he had to get out or die there.
Scurvy at 21, alone at the end of the world with no gold to show for it. Marty, how did he even get home?
When the ice broke in the spring of 1898, Carol, Jack London, and 2 others built a little boat and floated down the Yukon River, 1,500 miles, all the way across Alaska to the sea, a sick boy drifting home broke and beaten. He had gone for gold, and he was coming back with, they say, about $4.50 worth of gold dust in his poke. By every measure a stampeder used, Jack London was a total failure. He had climbed the pass, endured the winter, ruined his health, and struck it poor.
$4.50. After all of that. Marty, and yet you told me he came home with the greatest fortune of all. What was it?
The stories, Carol. He came home with his head full of the Klondike, and he sat down in Oakland, poor and unknown, and he began to write. And out of that one frozen winter of listening by the stove came story after story, and then the books, Carol. The Call of the Wild, about a dog named Buck stolen away to pull sleds in the Yukon. White Fang. To build a fire. That terrible, perfect little story of a man freezing to death alone on the trail, which anyone who has been cold, truly cold, can hardly bear to read. Jack London became, within a few years, the most famous and the highest paid writer in America, and one of the most beloved storytellers the world has ever known. And every bit of it came out of the winter he thought he had wasted.
Oh, Marty. He thought that winter was a failure, the lowest point of his life, and it was actually the richest thing that ever happened to him. He just could not see it yet.
He could not see it yet, Carol. And there is the whole heart of the thing, the reason I wanted to tell you this one. 100,000 people went to the Klondike digging in the dirt for gold, and nearly all of them came home with nothing, and counted it a loss. Jack London came home with nothing in his poke and everything in his head, because he had spent his winter paying attention to people instead of clawing at the ground. The gold in the Klondike ran out, Carol. Big Alex's millions turned back to dirt. But 125 years on, a child somewhere is reading The Call of the Wild tonight, and the Yukon is alive and howling in her mind. That is the only Klondike fortune that never played out.
The only one that never played out? Marty, that gives me goosebumps. All that gold gone, and the one boy who found no gold gave the Klondike its immortality.
He gave it its soul, Carol. So the next time you feel like a whole season of your life has been a waste, a long, cold winter with nothing to show for it, remember young Jack London, sick and broke in a cabin, gathering up the very thing that would make him immortal and not even knowing it. Sometimes the richest ground is the winter you think you're wasting. Pay attention to the people around the stove. I'm Marty Shepherd.
And I'm Carol, and tonight I'm going to go find my old copy of The Call of the Wild. Hold your people close, listen to their stories, and come back to the fire.